Hello, greetings. This place, and this time it is a good morning, warm sunshine, and we thank God for that. We praise Him and welcome again for this episode that we have for today. I would like us to read a verse that will introduce our subject for today. Very wonderful, and we want to thank God for His hand. We'll read from Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verse 11. He has made everything beautiful in its time. He has also set eternity in the hearts of men, yet they cannot fathom what God has done from the beginning to the end. This is your sister, Jennifer Ogembo. We are going to have a look at this bush. This bush has a lot to tell us. It has shrubs of different kinds. It has even some bees, and it has some older plants that you can see, cassava plants, which are there. And we are going to talk about this. But our topic for today is God's broader picture. When we look at this portion of the kitchen garden, there's nothing really appealing. We just see shrubs. We just see it is unkept. It is neglected, and it has all negative, a picture that it's giving. But we want to talk about the cassava plants which we placed here. When we had the rainy season, we planted cassava plants here. Very nice for breakfast, very nice food. But when we planted them, the rains disappeared. And when we wanted to weed, we found that the weeding would be dangerous, will spoil them. So we decided to keep the place like this till the rains would come, and then we would move on. If it were weeded, they would be looking like this stretch. We just tried a bit, it would be like this, the whole garden. So inside here, we have small cassava plants that are growing, but you cannot see them. You look at this picture, it is so discouraging. If I give somebody here to dig or to weed, I believe that person will just come with a slasher and slash everything. And that would be dangerous for the cassava plants that are inside here. Let's have a look at what's happening here. The cassava plants that are inside here, they actually look like the weeds themselves, and it's not easy to identify them. Have a look at this. This is a cassava plant growing up and trying to compete with the weeds here. But then you would wonder, why have we left the plants like this? Number one reason is, when the rains disappeared, if we continue weeding them, they'll dry up because the soil will be disturbed. And so we are just waiting for the rain to come. This is a rainy season, and we believe God is going to send some showers. These shrubs that we are seeing here, they may be competing with the cassava plants inside here, but they are providing shade. So they are not just there on a negative tone, but they are providing shade. Also, these plants, when we have little showers of rain, they retain the moisture, and that helps the cassava plants inside here. So we are waiting to weed the cassava after some time, and we'll have a beautiful outlook like these ones here. Now, this is the picture that we have. Somebody may come here and wonder what's happening. But let's relate this to our Christian life. Let's relate this to our day-to-day life. Imagine the cassava plant that is inside here. If this was a person, this person may be complaining, "Why, Lord? Why am I going through all this? Why do I have bushes in my life? Why do I have obstacles in my life?" But remember, we know very well that God's answers are yes, no, and wait. For this moment, for this cassava, I'm saying wait, and it is for its own good. This cassava, the way it is standing here, if it was a person, it may be thinking, I'm the only one going through this problem. I'm the only one that is covered with weeds. I'm the only one struggling to get to the sun. But there are others also here which are just like that cassava which seems to be alone. So that cassava may think it is alone, but it's not alone. There are others that are sharing the problems with it. Here we are, another one here. This one is even struggling more than the others. So how do we relate this to our lives? We may ask God, Lord, why me? Why are you doing this to me? Why am I suffering like this? I'm the only one going through this. Remember Elijah, when he had done God's work and he really conquered in the Lord's name, but then later he got tired, he got exhausted, and to him at that time, he was saying he was the only prophet remaining in Israel. And that was not the truth. So even for us, we may be going through problems, we may be going through challenges, things we don't really understand. We've just read from Ecclesiastes chapter 3 verse 11 that the Lord does things, everything beautiful in its own time. So for me here with these cassavas, I have a good plan. There's a broader picture, and very soon we shall see this whole garden clean like this row that we see here. And God knows that sometimes when He says yes to at certain times, it may not be good for us. It may even cost our lives. So He says wait. That's why I'm also waiting here. This is a real message for us. So even me, when I come around here, I remember, yes, even in my life, God has said wait at some times. And I'd really praised Him because I waited. And after that, the broader picture was wonderful. I could not imagine, just like we read in Ephesians chapter 3, verse 20, and going onwards. Elijah thought that he was the only one. He was not the only one. This cassava may think it's the only one here. It's not. There are others scattered inside here. But there's a broader picture that this garden will be clean one day, and with the rain, they'll grow up, and then there will be food to eat. We can look at this garden again, could be given labels. It is unkept, it is not clean, it is having thorny shrubs, and so forth. But now, even us in life, we may have, because of what we are going through, we get some labels. We read the story of Joseph. He was labeled a dreamer. Then later, he was a slave. Afterwards, he became a prisoner. And the broader picture that God had, he served in the king's kingdom. He commanded all the kingdom. Imagine if he did not dream, if he was not gotten by the slave traders, if he was not taken to Potiphar's house. You remember how he struggled there, and then he ended up in prison. Prison now is like a dungeon. It was like that was the end of him. And in fact, if he was depressed at that time, we have had stories where even prisoners commit suicide. From what Joseph had gone through, he was a candidate for even suicide in that prison. But he kept on. He held on to his God, because the God that he worshipped knew it, and he was closely walking with this God. And so he was waiting for the broader picture. We have read about Joseph's broader picture. He even saved many nations that were starving. So even us, we can be labeled, you are a widow, that one who has failed miserably, and so forth. We may get labels, but God has the broader picture when we trust in Him. Let's continue looking unto Him, and He will guide us. We have some other bigger cassava plants. You may wonder why we have them there. And then there are these others which are still too small. We retained them. They are from another generation which we planted earlier, then had crop rotation, and then now we are planting these others. But we retained them so that if we lose any of them inside here, we'll have some stalks to cut and plant so that we have this portion full with cassava plants. We also retained, because we have one of our children coming from far, and she's very fond of cassavas. So when she comes, we'll uproot and we'll cook for her. She will enjoy Mama's cassava. We thank God for that. God has the broader picture of our lives. Let's just trust in Him. We may not understand. So honestly, anybody coming here would wonder why this shamba is like this. But for us, we are saying it is just for a season. We had said that we protect these plants from direct sunlight, and when it is clean like this, and you can see already some dogs have passed by and meddled with this one here. So when the whole shamba will be clean, then you'd find so many of them injured and uprooted and maybe spoiled for good. Can see this, but we shall just have to wait again. So that's why we are waiting. And we don't have to leave this shamba to be like this. There's just a reason. And we could say that these shrubs here, they may be here and then they grow old and drop more of the seeds inside there, complicating the things. We leave it like this. Maybe snakes may hide inside here. Rodents may come in and start eating the tender plants that are coming up, and many other problems may come around. But remember, these are giving shade to our plants, the way God takes care of us. When He has His wings over us, shading us, just for a season, and then we may feel this is so oppressive, this is too much, God, this shadow is too much on my head. But let's remember, those shadows are protecting us because God has a broader picture of our lives. So let us understand what God does in our lives. This is not for good, it is for a season. And for us, let us look at eternity in view. As we live our life day to day, let us have eternity in view. We shall see example of God's broader picture when we'll have this place cleared and well weeded and our plants growing. We can also relate this to the story of the prodigal son. We can remember when he became of age, that son, he wanted all his riches, but the father said, no, you cannot handle this. This is still too much for you. We need to mentor you. Many times in our families, we have our children who want to be away. And they just say, I want my space, Daddy, Mommy, I want my time. I want my space. Leave me, I'm now an adult. Leave me alone. But the parent who said, no, wait, you still have quite much to learn, quite much to do, quite much to grow, so that you may be ready to face the world, ready even to settle with your education that you have had, settle even your future marriage, and settle on how to relate with people, and more so your spiritual life. Let us be patient with our children. May we guide them so that they don't move out. Out there they may have problems. Like now, if we leave anybody else to take care of this shrub, as I had mentioned before, the person may just come with a slasher and slash everything, and even slash the upcoming plants. Our children may be slashed by wrong company, wrong associations. So let us pray God to help us to take care of them so that they may follow and learn from what the parents have, learn from what their pastors have for them, so that they move on. All geared to eternity, because all these things are seasonal and they will end. So as much as I say that this may harbor rodents and other harmful insects and so forth, we could also see a brighter side of this picture here. We can see we have bees here hopping from flower to flower, and you never know, they could be making some honey in the neighborhood here, and I would find myself buying that honey. So this season, as I said, it has a reason why it is here. You can also look at this. It's like a shrub, but to us this is a very special vegetable, including the seeds. If it happens to grow before I do away with the shrubs, we'll have seeds, and then I would keep the seeds and plant somewhere else so that we have this special kind of vegetable, and maybe have a garden. Probably after I've cleared the cassava, next season we may have this kind of vegetable planted here so that we ensure we have crop rotation, and then we'll plant cassava elsewhere. The picture here may look bleak, but there's also a better picture. So as we look at our lives and all that's happening, may we see the broader picture, and more so may we see eternity in everything that happens to our lives. May God bless you.